All right, I'm going to be taking you through Listsource, showing you how to use it so you can maximize the functionality and use and get some great prospect lists. Um, Listsource, for those that haven't used it before, is very powerful. It's probably one of the most powerful databases to get a prospect list. For those that have used Listsource before, you may know everything that I go through. However, you might pick up a couple things here and there. So stick with the video and hopefully it adds some value. When you log into Listsource, this is the dashboard screen that you're gonna view every time. There is a bunch of different sections to it, so I'll go through each one that you will likely use. Up at the top menu, you have this administration button. If you click on that and then click on usage activity, this is where you will see all your usage and purchases. The next one, save searches, which is up here, as well as you can get to it right down here. This will show you all your save searches. So as I'll show you, as you make selections and identify criteria, you can always save what you've done so that you can come back to it later on and pick up from where you left off. Purchase lists, also down here and up top. Just what it says. It's anytime you purchase a list, you can always get back to that purchase list by clicking either here up at the top, or it will show down here and you can click on it and then you can export it again if you need to. So that is the top bar. Those are the selections that you'll mostly use up top. This next one is this next menu here. There's going to be 5 selections. So create your own is going to be the one that I mostly use and probably the one that you mostly use. These other 4 selections are going to be pre-populated lists. So for instance, this absentee owner list here, if you click on it, it's going to have a lot of the criteria already selected for you, but you can always go in, identify geography, and additional criteria to further scrub down your list. But it's not going to give you as many options as the create your own will have. So with that, let's click on create your own. And now this is the screen that you'll be seeing most of the time. Down at the bottom here in the gray, this is going to be where all your selections are going to show up that you've been making. Then at the top, it's going to have a count. So this count is going to be updated throughout whenever you make a new selection. First thing that we have to do is identify the geography. You will not be able to select any of these other tabs without selecting geography. So let's do that now. By clicking on this drop-down menu, you can see that there's a number of selections that you can make. For the most part, I use city, county, and zip code. But there's many other ones that you can select, including this map search, which has actually a pretty cool function to it. So let's select county. I'm going to do Massachusetts and Middlesex County. So you can see in Middlesex County there are 442,000 records. Okay, so now as we go through, I'm going to make selections for an absentee owner list. Okay, so everything that I make for these selections is going to be for an absentee owned list, but it's also going to show you some of the functionality and selections that you can make so you can then go on and experiment with the selections yourself. Next tab is mortgage. The main one that I use here in the mortgage dropdown is loan to value. So when you click on the loan to value, this is going to identify the equity that somebody has in their house. So for me, I do 1 to 50. And then I always also keep this unknown. So right now this is showing me all the properties that have 50% or more equity in the house, and also properties that have an unknown equity. So what that means is Listsource just doesn't have an idea of, they can't do the calculation for loan to value. So they just mark it as unknown. Doesn't mean that the people don't have any equity in the house. It just means that Listsource can't estimate it. So you can see that I entered in the information down here. There's two ways that you can select criteria: by this up here, these selections, or you can actually enter in the amount that you want and then click on add here or add up top here. Okay, let's move on to the next tab. So this tab is going to be one of the most important ones that you come across. This is where you can really identify everything about the property that you want to select. So for me, I want to do single family homes. So I would select this property type and then single family home. The next one, let's say year built. I want to go from 1900 to 1995. And then let's say bedrooms. 2 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that, but you can see that there's a lot of other criteria that you can select. Actually, I'm going to put living area 1,000 to 3,500. The other nice one here is length of residence. So you can select how long they've lived at that residence or owned it. Demographics. So here you can select, the only one I really use in this drop-down is age. So you can identify anyone of a certain age. So if you just want to target people 55 years and older, you can select these two and click on add. Next tab is foreclosure. Foreclosure does not work in every state. So I would just play around with the selections here, and if it provides you with any leads at all. Massachusetts, it does not work for it, so it will show me a count of 0. Okay, this last tab, options, this is where you can select owner-occupied status. So we're going to select absentee owned. So once we do that, you can see that it dropped down significantly to 5,451. Trustee-owned properties, no preference. Corporate-owned, exclude. Address completion requirements, you want to have both mailing and property address complete. So you have both addresses. Now that is everything that I want to select for this list. So you can see we're left with 5,451 leads. So there are 2 buttons down here. You can either purchase the list or save the criteria. I always save my criteria first, because if I ever did something wrong or I exported the list and want to just double check the how I pulled the list, I can always refer back to this absentee list. Click on save. Now I click on purchase list. Once we're here, this section down here will give you additional outputs for your file. So for instance, if you wanted to add zoning, you can add the zoning selection, add to order. But note that you're going to see some of these will add cost to your order. So zoning did not add any cost. But now if I select style, this does add cost to your list. So just be careful when you're making these selections. Certain demographics, certain selections will add some cost to it. So list name, you can change this. You can change the list name to absentee list. The other very important selection is right down here. You want to click on remove duplicate property mailing addresses, so you do not get duplicate property addresses. You don't want to have to pay for them twice. Now with all this criteria, you can see my list cost was $180.84, but then because I added this style component, it's going to add $51 to the cost. So the total list price is going to be $232.51. So you can always go back by clicking Refine Search. If you click that, you'll go back to identify and change your criteria. Or if you want to purchase, you click on Continue to Checkout. This is where you'll enter in your credit card information and click on Place Order. Now I'm not going to place my order, but once you do click on that, it will go to the Purchase List tab, and you'll see that the information will be downloaded. Once it is downloaded, you'll be able to click on the Export button, and then you can export it as a CSV, an XLS file, and there's a couple other files that you can export them as. Now let's go back to the dashboard, and because I did save that file, that list, you can see it now populated here, absentee list. So if I click on that, I can always get back to that list and start off where I left off. Okay, so that is pretty much the full functionality of Listsource. I'd recommend that you play around with it, test out a couple of different options, see how it works, and start purchasing lists so you can start your direct mail.